Hi everyone, Stone Crypto here, bringing back to you some more rock solid crypto tutorial content. Today's topic, I'll be continuing my How to Research in Cryptospace series, focusing on coin potential. And by coin potential, I mean how to really differentiate between, one ICO and another, or one coin and another when you're trying to choose, how to invest that $100, that $1,000. And just for clarifications, this is not financial advice. This is merely how I would handle certain situations that I am put in. So to get started, reviewing the fundamentals, I'll start off by touching on that and then getting kind of the lay of the land. You have to know what the puzzle looks like before you can actually, put the puzzle pieces together and finish that particular picture. And lastly, I'll use CargoX as an example to walk through how exactly I research a particular type of coin and then how I can compare them against each other. So to start off, any particular ICO that you're looking at, you want to review the concept first. And when you're looking at the concept, you want to make sure that it hasn't been done 100 times already, that what they're really trying to do is something that's unique, or they're adding a twist to something. And if they are doing those things and it all looks good, then you can move on to the white paper. As an example, I'll show you over here. Say I'm trying to look for upcoming ICOs, and over here I'm using sites like ICO Drops or Top ICO List. And the first thing you want to scout when you're looking for good concept ICOs is you want to make sure you're not looking at sponsored ICOs. So it doesn't mean that these ICOs are bad. What sponsored means is that they actually pay to be up here. So it puts a lot of the other ones not in the limelight. Every website out there is a business and they have to make money too, and this is how they make their money, by allowing certain ICOs to sponsor themselves. So just because it's up top doesn't mean it's any better than the ones all the way down at the bottom. And since ICO Drops, so this is upcoming, you want to focus on upcoming ICOs. Since ICO Drops doesn't really doesn't clarify what these ICOs are outside the industry, I'm going to use Top ICO List. So Top ICO List gives you at least an elevator pitch of what these companies are. Decentralized home rental platform, so that looks like it's trying to compete with Airbnb. Airbnb is already doing pretty well, so it's not something I'm interested in looking into. Just because I skip over doesn't mean it's good. Doesn't mean it's not good. Payment protocol, I don't even know what that means. First, blockchain asset management marketplace, not really clear what this company's trying to do. Decentralized advertising marketplace, so it sounds like it's an advertising exchange, competitor with AdX. There's a couple other ones out there already. So this is really going to be different. How are they going to be different? How are they going to be competitive when there's at least 3 other companies on the blockchain space that are doing this now? Gambling and betting, there's at least 5 other blockchain companies that are doing gambling and betting on the blockchain. Polyswarm, first decentralized marketplace for hackers to compete and protect you. So that's interesting. So assuming that the concept works out well, you go onto the white paper. You want to make sure the white paper flows. It's easy to read, because if it's not easy to read and doesn't flow, it's probably not easy to read and doesn't flow for others. You want to make sure that there aren't that many grammatical or spelling mistakes, because if they can't even get their white paper spelled correctly, imagine what's going to happen when they start putting together code. And there are a few exceptions to the spelling and the grammatical stuff for countries. For ICOs that are coming from a foreign country like Russia or China. I've seen a couple of them that have to put out many different versions of the white paper, and sometimes there's a few grammatical mistakes. But if English isn't their native tongue, then you can kind of look a little bit lower on the white paper level. But if it's from a European country, Canada, Australia, the US, and they can't spell their white paper correctly, that's probably a major red flag and shows to the quality of their team. Make sure the next one, that token utility actually has a purpose with that particular ICO that you're looking at. They're not just putting a coin out there to issue a coin. Make sure that that particular platform requires that coin in order to function. There's other functions for the coin outside of that as well. Token economy, you want to look into what is the circulating supply of the coin. What would be the maximum supply of the coin as well. How much is issued to the ICO investors? How much is issued to the management? How long is management being required to hold their coins for, if they're required to hold their coins at all? How much is saved? How much of those coins are saved for business development, marketing, partnerships, social media, whatever it is? You need to know the breakdown. The team. So the team is very important. It's probably about 30% of every single analysis that you do. Remember, when you're doing reviewing all of these, you should be weighing every single one of these on a scale. And once you're done going through, reviewing all these fundamental pieces, then you can give that ICO a grade. And that's how you're able to really choose one ICO against another ICO. Because if you're just arbitrarily looking at things and not documenting things, it's really hard to compare the two unless you are really good at doing that. So when you're looking into the team, you want to make sure the team has relevant industry experience, that they've been working in that industry for more than a year or two, because if you're only in that industry for a year or two, you probably don't have strong connections in that space to really propel your company. So after you've reviewed the team and they do have a strong industry experience, you want to make sure that they have strong position experience, that they've held those roles before, that they're not jumping from a manager directly to a CEO. Sure, they have some management experience, but that's a whole new level, and that's a whole new level of stress and that particular manager may not have dealt with before. If you're going from an analyst to a director or another C-level executive, that's another red flag. It's a huge jump. So you want to make sure that the CEOs have held high-level management positions before, the CTOs have held high-level technical positions before. And assuming those check out, you can move over to whether the team has worked together or not in the past. That's a very important part of team composition. 90% of startups fail within the first 3 years because of team composition. People cannot get along on the team. The CEO and the CTO that are both co-founders of a particular company can't agree on compensation when one feels like they're more important than the other. So you want to make sure that people on this team, you have a better chance of that team succeeding and breaking apart if they've worked together in the past, if they've built another company together. So those are all key signs that you should be looking for on the team. And lastly, once all three of those aspects check out, relevant industry experience, relevant position experience, they've worked together in the past, then you want to make sure that they've actually held those positions. A lot of stuff on the internet can be made up, and there's been plenty of scam ICOs that have just been copying and pasting pictures, linking to people's LinkedIns that aren't even advisors or on the team. Or honestly, you can create a fake LinkedIn really easily and just tag any company that you want to be a part of. There isn't a real strong vetting process on LinkedIn. So when you're going through and reviewing people's LinkedIn, you should probably back up every one of those LinkedIn profiles for the senior management or co-founders with some type of press release or article that can confirm that they've worked at that company. So assuming that the team looks legit, there aren't too many red flags. Obviously not every company or team ICO is perfect. There's going to be some red flags here and there. You just want to make sure there's no major red flags. So assuming there's no major red flags up until now, you move on to the roadmap. And for why the roadmap is very important is because these ICOs are investments. And they're investments that we all want returns on. Sure, there's a lot of these ICOs that we'd like to use in the future. We'd like to be involved with some of their platforms. As an example, Populous is an invoice factoring platform, and when it goes live, you can pretty much get residual income for the rest of your life as long as you hold on to the tokens, as you can rent out the tokens and buy these invoices on their platform and get a payment for it every 30, 60, 90, 120 days. But you want to make sure that the roadmap for getting the MVPs, the alphas, the betas, the final platform launch, partnerships, exchanges are all realistic. You don't want to be waiting 2 years for a platform to just start developing their alpha or their MVP. Make sure that the roadmap is realistic, that the MVP is under 2 years, well under 2 years ideally. The alpha, beta, and platform launch is probably all ideally done under 3 years. Anything under 2 years is probably pretty positive. Partnerships, exchanges, they have all of that detailed out. Basically anything that's significant with helping get the company in a positive light, closer to hitting the market, closer to being actually usable, and spreading awareness about the company. Any of these real big initiatives should be in the roadmap. It should be outlined with a time frame. If you see a roadmap without a time frame, that's a red flag, because then you pretty much don't know when things are going to get done by. Is the MVP going to be done in 5 years? Like, are you investing in an ICO that's trying to build a Death Star? That's the only thing that I can see that would probably take 5 years or longer. And once you've reviewed the roadmap, it looks fine. There aren't any major red flags. If there are red flags, you can also always go directly to the team and try to clarify them. That's what I do oftentimes in many cases. Then you can move on to the competition. So who are the other competitors in the blockchain space that are trying to do what this company is trying to do? Are there any? If there are, how does this company compare? What is this ICO doing differently than the company that's already doing what they're trying to do? If there isn't real any benefit that they're doing, or if there isn't anything really different that this ICO is doing than the one that's already completed their ICO, raised a successful token sale offering, then that's probably a major red flag. So if they are very different, or if there aren't any competitors, who are the competitors in the traditional market? As an example, AdX is the first decentralized advertising exchange, digital advertising exchange built on the blockchain. There's other ones now, but before them, the only competitors were the traditional digital advertising exchanges not on the blockchain, and there were many of them that made up the market of tens of billions of dollars every single year. So that market could potentially have been captured entirely by AdX. They had the first mover advantage in a space. They had a strong team. The team has worked together in the past. So those are all positives. And the competition, although they didn't have any direct competition, they had legacy competition in the old legacy markets. So now that you've identified who the potential competition is on the blockchain, if there is or isn't any, who the competition is in the traditional world, if there is or isn't any, and it still looks good, then you can move on to the market potential. So as I mentioned earlier, for AdX, the digital advertising exchange market potential is tens of billions of dollars. That's how much is being put into that market right now, not on the blockchain. And now that AdX is on the blockchain and trying to basically bring that entire market onto the blockchain, that's the entire potential that AdX has. AdX is currently a $200 million market cap company with the potential to be $100 billion if they take 100% of the market. What if they only take 10% of the market at $10 billion? 200 million right now to 10 billion. That's a huge gain. What if they only take 5% of that market? 200 million to 5 billion. That's a massive market potential for AdX. And being a first mover in that space really makes that appealing. So those are things you want to look for as well in the competition. Lastly, the ICO, the token sale parameters. You want to look into the pre-sale, when the pre-sale dates are, what the pre-sale prices are, how much was sold during the pre-sale if the pre-sale already finished. Any private sales, same thing, how much was sold during the private sale. And then the token sale, when the token sale dates are, how much they're planning to sell. And then once you review all those, then you can look into the soft cap and the hard cap. A soft cap is the minimum amount that a particular ICO needs to raise for the company to fund itself. They've determined that, a soft cap of $3 million is what they need to actually run this business for 3 years, build this product and launch. Any less, they don't have what it takes, and if they don't run a successful ICO, the smart contract will automatically refund everybody if they don't receive X amount of Ethereum. That equates to roughly $3 million US. So that is what a soft cap is, and you want to make sure that companies have a realistic soft cap and also a realistic hard cap as well. Hard cap is the maximum amount that an ICO can raise. And recently, there's been a lot of emphasis on hard cap, as in the past, some ICOs didn't have any hard caps. So without a hard cap, these ICOs are just raising so much money than they knew what to do with. What are you going to do with $500 million, $200 million as a startup that doesn't even have an office yet, that doesn't even have all the necessary team members together to start working? $200 million, you're pretty much set for the rest of your life. Like, what is your vesting period for your management team in regards to your tokens? Because if you're getting $200 million, I'm pretty sure some of them on the team are tempted just to sell some off for 30 million, 20 million, and just cash out. So you want to make sure that the hard cap is reasonable as well, because if these brand new startups that are a lot newer than the startups that are being funded by VCs have $100 million hard caps, $500 million hard caps, like seriously, what are you building? Yeah, the Death Star? Not like, that's unrealistic if you have that high of a hard cap, and it's probably a red flag unless you're trying to really do something that's revolutionary. So now that you have reviewed everything from the concept down to the ICO parameters and everything looks good, now you kind of got to do all of that over again for everything else. So for ADX, you want to compare that. You want to weigh everything all out, give it a final score. Then you want to do it for Populous, and then you want to do it for CargoX. Once you have gone through the research of all three of those platforms, that is what getting the lay of the land is. It allows you to see what the final picture would look like. So these are the potential scores of these companies. That's what they'll look like when they're finished. And this allows you to kind of lay out your different chess pieces and kind of determine their clarity level. So if you're fighting a war against, one army against another army, you need to know what everything looks like around you, where the forest is, where the rivers are, where the bridges are, so you know where to put certain different types of chess pieces that can handle those situations better. And if you have chess pieces that you don't really know how strong they are or how large they are, then that clarity level is kind of working to your disadvantage. So you want to make sure that you're reviewing heavily what the token utility is, the token economy, the team, roadmap, competition, ICO, because if any of these aren't at 100%, then you're pretty much going into this war blinded in certain areas. And that's how a lot of people lose different wars, because they don't have the right information. And that's why information is very important in every single industry. So now we're going to review the CargoX ICO. We'll start off with the concept first, and you have here the concept is blockchain-based bill of lading, BL documents for global trade. So that looks good. Doesn't look like anyone else has done this before, and you've searched for this. Great. You move on to the next section, which is the white paper. You go over the white paper, and white paper looks good. Everything's spelled correctly. You're clicking on links and they take you to where they're supposed to take you. So white paper looks good. Okay, and then you move on to the next section, token utility. Right here, CXO tokens will be required to obtain access to the system and all core operations on the BNL exchange. Archiving, discounted usage fees for depositing CXO tokens. Okay, so the token utility looks good. Great, we can move on to the next section. Here are their roadmaps and milestones when they are Q1 2018. That's very soon. That's a positive. That's when they're going to add CXO as a payment. Okay, that doesn't seem very important. Okay, so beta is going to be done Q1 as well. So that's a positive. First customers starting in Q2. That's very positive. So that means you're going to have a working platform by Q2. and then they're going to add on features for banks and insurers next year. So this roadmap looks relatively short and positive. Right here it says MVP is going to be projected to be finished in Q1 as well. Okay, so this is the breakout of the total and circulating supply of CXO CargoX tokens. Looks like the crowd sale, the ICO pre-sale and private placement is going to make up 40%. So that's how much is going to be circulating on the public after they complete the ICO. Okay, that's fine. They've locked up 25% for future development. 15% is going to the team, and that's only locked up for 12 months. 12 months is a little bit short, but it's not unreasonably short. At least they're going to be focusing on the company, working on it heavily for a year before they can sell off these tokens. A minor red flag there. Advisors have 10%. Future and strategic partnerships, they're allocating 8% of CargoX tokens. And the bounty pool is 2%. Okay, so it looks good so far. The actual supply of the tokens. This is the token sale parameters. Dates, bonuses. Bonuses don't look ridiculous. It's the amount that you're getting. Everything looks okay. Okay, there's KYC on the ICOs, no USA or China participation. That is fine. There's a 5eth personal limit for the first 3 hours. Okay, that looks okay as well. Looks like they're trying to stop whales from buying up all the tokens and making it kind of a little bit unfair. Soft cap 1.5 million. That's pretty reasonable that a company, if they raise 1.5 million, they'd be okay with using that just to fund the company, and a hard cap of 7 million. Also, it looks very low, but if they're saying that they can do what they're trying to do with 7 million, that's a very, very positive sign. It should be very strong for token appreciation. So that's another positive. Competitors, no real competitors in the market yet. IBM and Maersk are working on one now. And I know there's some indirect competitors like Wallet Chain, VeChain, that are doing RFID technology to monitor and track the entire supply chain industry. So if they moved some of that technology onto not just the products that they're tracking, imagine if they started tracking the shipping containers and putting out RFID chips on the shipping containers, and then putting out the sensors at all the ports as well. Then you would pretty much know when and where every single shipping container is, what packages you're looking for, which company does it belong to. I can see that in the long term making bills of lading obsolete, but for the short term, I think this is a very positive sign for CargoX that there's no direct competitors. Team composition. So these guys, looks like they've worked together in the past. They've CEO at 45HC, partner at 45HC. This guy, the blockchain developer, was the web developer for 45HC. So a lot of these guys have worked together in the past. These are all their LinkedIn profiles. Positive that they have one. These are additional links that link to the CEO saying that he's worked at this company in the past. This is the CEO of CargoX, and it shows on Crunchbase that he is also the CEO of 45HC. Okay, that's good. Let's look at this one. This is a trade publication that is mentioning 45HC back in 2016, so about 2 years ago, and it mentions 45HC. The CEO, Stefan, right here. Okay, so it looks legit. It looks like Stefan was the CEO of 45HC, and if he's the CEO of 45HC, it makes a lot of this more relevant and believable that they've actually worked together at this company. So the team looks solid. We have links to their Bitcoin talk, their GitHub. There's actually a GitHub, so that's good. Telegram, Twitter, Medium, Reddit, and let's see, here's the bill of lading statistics. So in order to understand the market potential that CargoX is tackling and what type of token appreciation that we could expect from CargoX, right here we have to know what the potential market is. In the US alone, in 2015, there were 20,700,000 bills of lading processed. That's roughly $2.5 million if you go by $100 calculation per bill of lading. That's in the US alone in 2015. So you can probably bet that that number has increased because it's 2018 now. And on top of that, you can probably double it for the rest of the world. So 2.5 billion to 5 billion now. Now you have CargoX trying to take on a $5 billion industry. So even if it only takes 10% of that industry on the blockchain, that is 10% of 5 billion is 500 million. So if they were to take 500 million, that would put them at a ridiculous, probably 50x valuation from where they're currently at. So that seems very, very promising. Just for a 10% market cap potential, it would be a 50x gain. So if you went even 10%, like let's say 20% of that at 100 billion, that'd be a 10x gain at 100 billion. I mean at 100 million. So once you do all of that research, you'll come out with a score. You have to weigh every single section, and that's how we came to the score of 8.2. So that's it for today's episode of how to research. If you like this episode, feel free to like, subscribe, and follow Stone Crypto for updates, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.